Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the Rust programming language.
Oh yeah, Rust.
Uh,
It's
I've heard good things.
yeah, it's got a lot of buzz around it, you know,
Yeah.
for being fast and safe and just like the right way to do things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And we have this document that we're going to be diving into called comprehensive-rust.pdf.
Oh, cool.
And it's actually training material that was developed by Google.
Interesting.
Yeah, by their Android team. So we're getting a glimpse into how Google's using this
That's awesome.
to build the stuff we use every day.
That's right. And they use it for like Android and Chrome. So
Yeah.
pretty big deal.
It's pretty legit.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is this isn't for like total beginners.
Gotcha.
This is actually for people who already know how to program.
Okay.
And it seems like it's assuming you're familiar with C and C++.
So it's like they're saying, all right, you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly
Right.
of programming languages, and now we're going to show you the right way, the better way. Exactly.
I liked it.
Yeah, and right from the beginning,
Yeah.
they highlight some of these key features.
Okay.
One that always comes up is memory safety.
Yeah.
And, in languages like C++, you can have these really nasty bugs.
Right.
If you're not careful about how you manage memory.
Like overwriting data or creating security holes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Rust has this system called ownership that prevents those kinds of memory mishaps.
Interesting.
It's like having a librarian who's just making sure that you're borrowing and returning everything correctly.
Okay, so it's very organized.
Super organized.
Rust is like the Marie Kondo of programming.
Right.
Everything's tidy in its place.
I like it.
Yeah. So it's got that going for it. And it also mentions some other features that I thought were really cool.
What did you see?
Well, I mean, besides the memory safety stuff,
Yeah.
it also mentions zero-cost abstractions.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I was kind of like, well, what's that about? And
Yeah, what is that?
basically, it's like you can have code that's really easy to understand and maintain
Mm-hmm.
without sacrificing performance.
Yeah.
Which is, in a lot of languages, if you want to make it more readable, it's going to make it slower.
Right.
But Rust somehow does both.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So elegance and efficiency, that's pretty impressive.
Definitely. And then one that might seem kind of boring, but it's actually a big deal,
What's that?
is great compiler errors.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever worked with a language where the compiler errors are just like
Oh, yeah. Cryptic.
what?
Absolutely. Like you're trying to decipher hieroglyphs.
Exactly. And then Rust, it's like your helpful coding buddy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, you made a mistake.
Yeah.
Here's why you made a mistake.
Yeah.
And here's how you can fix it.
What a dream come true.
I know, right? It can save you so much time.
Definitely.
And the course itself
Yeah.
seems to reflect that sort of developer productivity happiness.
Oh.
It's structured as 4 days of fundamentals,
Uh-huh.
and then they go into these specializations, like Android Chrome, bare metal programming, even concurrency.
Oh.
They cover a lot.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
And what's the teaching style? Like, is it all lecture and boring stuff, or do they actually let you get your hands dirty?
Oh, no, it's super hands-on.
Okay.
They emphasize live coding
Awesome.
and doing practical exercises.
I love that.
They even have a suggested pace,
Nice.
like 30 to 45 minutes for each exercise.
So they're like really making sure that you know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Learn by doing.
Yeah, there's no better way to learn.
Right.
Awesome. So you walk out of this thing a rustation?
A true rustation.
Not
right?
just someone who can,
Read the book.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's get into some of the details.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty.
We talked about memory safety, but one of the things that Rust does is array bounds checking.
Okay, remind me what that is again?
So if you have an array,
Right.
like a list of 10 items,
Yeah.
and you try to access the 11th item, in a lot of languages, that can cause all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
Crashes, data corruption.
Yeah, undefined behavior.
Exactly. But in Rust, the compiler will actually say, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
It'll check at runtime whether you're accessing something that's valid.
Gotcha.
And if not, it'll throw a controlled error.
So it's like a bodyguard for your code.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
making sure that you don't
You don't step out of bounds.
step out of bounds. Exactly.
And it goes beyond arrays.
Yeah.
Rust also defines very specific behavior for integer overflow.
Integer overflow. Okay, I'm not familiar.
Think of it like you have a glass of water,
Okay.
and the glass can only hold so much water.
Right.
If you keep pouring more in, it'll overflow.
Yeah, and then you've got a mess.
You got a mess everywhere.
Right.
And integers,
Yeah.
they have a limited range of values they can represent.
Okay.
And if you go outside that range, you get this overflow.
Right.
So it's like a digital equivalent of spilling that water.
Oh, I like it.
But in Rust, it's well defined. So it'll cause a panic.
So it's like, whoa, you're about to make a mess.
All right.
Let's stop this right now.
Yeah, we're not going to let you do that.
Okay. I like this proactive approach
Yeah.
to safety.
It's all about safety.
What else did you find?
Well, they have these really nice features
Mm-hmm.
that just make development easier,
Okay.
like the to-do,
Hmm.
macro.
That's a macro.
So macro is basically like a shortcut for writing code.
Okay.
And the to-do macro
Right.
is for code that you haven't written yet.
Oh, so it's like a placeholder?
Yeah, it's like a note to yourself.
Gotcha.
Hey, come back and finish this later.
So instead of leaving like a comment, you can just put
Nah.
this to-do thing.
Exactly. And the compiler will remind you about it
Oh, that's nice.
so you don't forget.
Yeah, it's like a built-in to-do list.
Yeah.
I like it.
And there's another one called unreachable,
Okay.
which is for code that should never be executed.
Okay, so code that you don't want to run.
Right? So think of it like if you have a function
Okay.
that handles different types of files,
Right.
like images, videos, audio.
Yeah.
But what if you get a file that's not one of those types?
Okay, so it's like a catch-all.
Yeah, like this should never happen.
Right.
But if it does,
Gotcha.
you can mark it as unreachable,
Interesting.
and the compiler can actually use that
For optimization.
for optimization.
So
Exactly.
it's not just about making it look nice and organized, but it's actually,
It has real implications.
yeah, real performance benefits.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we've just scratched the surface
Yeah.
of this
Yeah,
document.
we're just getting started.
What stood out to you so far?
Well, I'm really impressed by just how Rust seems to balance like safety and performance.
Yeah.
It's not just about preventing errors,
Right.
but doing it in a way that doesn't like slow everything down.
Yeah, and make it clunky.
Right. And these little details, like
Yeah.
macros and stuff, just show that they've really thought about.
Thought about the developers
Yeah.
making our lives easier.
Yeah. It's really cool.
And speaking of cool stuff, I'm really excited to talk about this type state pattern.
Oh, yeah.
That's in the
How
document, but
We should definitely talk about that.
that's going to have to wait till part 2.
Yeah.
So we'll be back to talk about type state.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
So that type state pattern.
Yeah, let's dive into that.
Okay, so basically, it lets you like encode the state of something
Okay,
directly into the type.
gotcha.
So think about like a vending machine.
Okay, a vending
He
machine.
can't buy a snack until you've put money in, right?
You got to pay for it.
Exactly. So the machine's state
Mm-hmm.
has to be money inserted before it'll let you do anything else.
Right.
So type state is kind of like bringing that logic to programming.
Okay, so it's not just like what data the type holds, but like what state it's in.
Exactly. And the compiler enforces that.
Oh, wow.
So like, let's say you're building a banking app.
You wouldn't want someone withdrawing money from an account that's already empty.
That'd be bad.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
But with type state, you can actually make that impossible.
Okay.
Like the compiler would say, no, this account's in the empty state.
Right.
You can't withdraw from it.
It's like a safety net at the code level.
Yeah, it's super cool.
That's really cool.
It's one of the ways that Rust helps you build like really robust software
Yeah.
because you're catching errors like early on
Right.
at compile time,
Not when it's running.
not when it's running.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
It's like a spell checker for logic.
that's a good way to put it.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And speaking of errors,
Yeah.
Rust has this interesting way of handling them.
Okay.
The result type.
The result, I've heard of this.
So in a lot of languages, you have exceptions.
Right.
They can happen anywhere.
Right.
And it just like interrupts the flow of the program.
Right. Like whack-a-mole trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But in Rust, they have this result type
Right.
that forces you to like acknowledge that things can go wrong.
Okay.
So a function
Yeah.
that might encounter an error
Right.
doesn't just return a value.
Okay.
It returns a result, which is like a container
Okay.
that either holds the successful value
Right.
or it holds an error.
So it's like a present.
Yeah,
It could be a cake or it could be like a lump of coal.
I like that.
Yeah.
And as the developer, you have to open that box.
Right. You have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it. You can't just ignore it.
I like that it makes you think about like, okay, what happens if it works? What happens if it doesn't?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it encourages this like more thoughtful
Yeah.
error handling.
It leads to more robust code, I bet.
Much more robust. Yeah.
Okay. This is really cool.
It's really interesting how they approach this.
So it's not just about speed, it's about making sure that like,
It actually works.
yeah, things work the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It doesn't come at the cost of performance.
Right.
So we talked about zero cost abstractions before.
Mhm. Elegant code, but also fast.
Right. Are there any other examples of that?
Yeah. I mean, what else is there?
Well, one that comes to mind is null pointer optimization.
Okay.
So in a lot of languages, no pointers are like little landmines.
Yeah.
You're just waiting for them to explode.
They'll crash your program.
Yeah, they'll crash everything.
Yeah.
So you have to constantly be checking for them.
Right, which slows things down.
Right. It adds overhead.
Yeah.
But Rust has this option type
Okay.
that basically makes null pointers obsolete.
So you don't have to worry about them.
You don't have to worry about them.
Okay. How does that work?
So instead of having a separate null value,
Right.
you have this option,
Right.
which is like a container that either has something
Okay.
or it's empty.
Gotcha.
And the best part is
Yeah.
the compiler can often optimize away the overhead
Wow.
of handling those option types.
So it's like you get the safety
Yeah.
and you get the speed.
You get both. It's amazing.
It's like magic.
It's like magic.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's full of these little tricks
Yeah.
that just make it so efficient and safe.
Right.
It's awesome.
It's really cool. But let's not get too lost in the weeds.
Right.
Let's talk about the practical applications.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about the features.
Yeah.
But like, what can you actually do with this thing?
So they highlight a few things.
Okay.
Obviously, Android development.
This is from Google.
Yeah, they're the ones who made it.
Yeah.
But they also talk about Chrome development.
Chrome?
Okay. Yeah, so it's not just for mobile apps.
Right.
It can also be used for web browsers.
Okay.
And then there's something that I thought was really cool.
What's that?
The bare metal Rust section.
Bare metal Rust? Yeah.
They use this little device called the micro.bit
The micro.bit.
to teach you embedded development in Rust.
Yeah, so this is like
So this is like hardware level stuff.
hardware level stuff,
Yeah.
interacting directly with the hardware.
Okay. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So you're not just building like apps and websites. You can actually build
You
like...
can build the software that runs on the devices.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So bare metal Rust, that sounds pretty hardcore.
It is a little bit hardcore.
Yeah.
But they do a good job of explaining it.
Okay.
And they even talk about using QEMU,
Okay.
which is an emulator
Yeah.
that can simulate different hardware environments.
Oh, wow. So you can like test your code.
Yeah, you can test it without having the actual hardware.
Wow. So you can build like a smartwatch with this?
You could build a smartwatch. Yeah,
That's incredible.
it's really cool.
So it's like the Swiss Army knife of programming languages.
It kind of is, yeah.
It can do it all.
It can do a lot, yeah.
But it can't be all good, right?
Well,
There's got to be some downsides.
there are some challenges.
Okay, what are we looking at here?
One that often trips people up is the borrow checker.
The borrow checker. That sounds intense.
No, it sounds scary.
Yeah.
But it's actually your friend.
Okay.
It's part of what makes Rust so safe.
Okay.
It analyzes your code
Yeah.
to make sure you're not creating memory errors.
It's like a strict teacher, but it's for your own good.
Exactly.
Okay.
It might take some getting used to,
Right.
but once you understand how it works, it's really helpful.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the safety, the efficiency, but what about like expressiveness?
Oh, yeah.
Can you do cool creative stuff with Rust, or is it just like practical and boring?
No, it's actually really expressive.
Okay.
You can create your own data types.
Okay.
You can use things like generics and traits
Mm-hmm.
to write reusable code.
Yeah, right.
You can even get into like functional programming.
Wow, so it's powerful and flexible.
It is, yeah.
Okay, this is awesome.
It's a really cool language.
Yeah.
And this document does a great job of introducing you to it. We haven't even talked about things like error handling and testing and concurrency.
Wait, concurrency, like doing multiple things at once?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Rust has some really cool approaches to concurrency,
Okay.
like asyncoate.
Asyncoate, what is that?
It's a way to write asynchronous code
Okay.
that looks and feels synchronous.
So it's like
Except for-
asynchronous, but synchronous?
It's kind of mind-bending,
A little bit, yeah.
but it makes it much more manageable.
Okay. I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah, it's a whole other topic.
It sounds like a deep dive in itself.
It is a deep dive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, okay, so we've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot, yeah.
Let's take a breather.
Yeah.
Come back for part 3,
Sounds good.
and we'll wrap things up.
All right.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our Rust deep dive.
Back for more Rust.
We've learned so much already.
It's been a journey.
I know, I feel like we've gone through like a whole semester of programming.
I know, right?
It's amazing.
It is.
But I'm really impressed by how this course is structured.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just like, here's the syntax, good luck.
Right.
It actually shows you how to use Rust.
To solve real problems.
Yeah, in different contexts.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, like seeing it applied
Yeah.
to Android and Chrome.
Right.
Massive project.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of like the power
It's not just theoretical.
Exactly.
It's like being used in the real world.
Yeah, and it's shaping the world, too.
Right, exactly. And speaking of shaping the world,
Yeah.
this bare metal Rust stuff,
Oh, yeah.
really interesting.
The microdot bit.
Yeah.
It's a cool little device.
Yeah.
To learn about embedded systems.
Yeah, so it's not just apps and websites, it's like actual devices.
Right, exactly.
And they even talk about using QEMU.
Yeah, to simulate more complex hardware.
So it can scale.
Yeah, it can scale up.
To bigger things?
Definitely.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
Okay, so we've talked about all the amazing things
Yeah.
that you can do with Rust. But is there anything that it's not good at?
That's a good question.
Like, what are the downsides?
Well, like any tool, it has its strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
It might not be the best choice for every single project.
Right.
Like if you're building a simple website,
Right.
something quick and easy,
Yeah.
you might want to use Python or JavaScript.
Okay, so it's not always the best.
Right. It's about using the right tool for the job.
Right, the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Rust is really good at building
Yeah.
reliable, high-performance software.
Right.
Free from errors.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think even if you're not building those kinds of projects, there's still a lot to be gained from learning Rust.
Definitely.
It's like a mental workout.
Yeah, it makes you think differently about how you write code.
Right. It challenges you to be more rigorous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who are just starting out,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
I would say embrace the challenge.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest language to learn. It's got a steep learning curve.
But it's so worth it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
The compiler is your friend.
Exactly. It's there to help you.
There are also a ton of resources online.
Yeah, the community's awesome.
The community's amazing.
Yeah, and most importantly,
Yeah.
have fun.
Have fun.
Rust is a really cool language.
It is.
And it can do so much.
Yeah, you can build amazing things with it.
All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive into Rust.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was really fascinating.
I learned a lot.
Me too. Hopefully our listeners did as well.
Yeah.
So until next time, keep on diving.
Keep on diving.